Hey everyone, I'm Sir Havoc and welcome to this episode of Passive Scouting. This episode I will not be doing an intro like I normally do where I talk for a minute or two. When you passive scout you sit in the bush essentially motionless for most of the battle, so I figured there's going to be plenty of time for me to chat along the way. Passive scouting, well, passive scouting is a great way of winning battles. It's a great way of, if you're in a scout tank, getting your win rate up. Well, however, there are some problems with passive scouting. First and foremost, you must have the support of your team. Okay? If you don't have the support of your team, those things that you spot won't get shot, and eventually the enemy will push up your flank and you'll die because you'll get spotted and killed. The second thing is you've got to have the patience of a saint. There will be lots of targets that you light up. There will be lots of tempting shots to take, especially when enemy tanks are one-shots. However, you mustn't take them. The moment you fire, in most cases your cover is blown and you die, especially if you haven't got sixth sense. But that leads me to the first tip of passive scouting. Don't do it unless you've got sixth sense, because all that happens is 1 minute you're sat in a bush, spotting things nicely, the next minute you explode, you're dead. You didn't know that you had been spotted and 2 or 3 tanks have lined up on you and killed you in one volley. So it might not be a good idea to do passive scouting if you don't have sixth sense. As you can see, we've got the Great Wolf here. He's a subscriber of mine and he sent me this replay. Now the T-54E1 has been spotted and he knows where the bush is for passive scouting in this map. So you'll quickly see he starts putting blind shots up here, which is something I do regularly. It turns out the Great Wolf got away with it in this match and none of them shots hit him. But in a lot of cases, the shots will hit, forcing him to retreat or be blown up. And that leads me to the next thing I want to say about passive scouting. The maps that you can successfully scout passively in now in World of Tanks are few and far between. Wargaming, for some reason, are removing bushes for them maps that are well suited to it. And also the new maps seem to be more city-based or building-based, quite oftenly not having any areas where you can get into an open space and successfully scout passively. And for that reason, I wouldn't set my scout tank up to fit with modules for passive scouting, because I believe you limit yourself. There's only about maybe 25% of the maps where it would be hugely beneficial. Yes, it would benefit you in most maps, but you know, with the role of the light tank becoming more of a lightweight camo medium now, I believe the best fit up is to support, you know, coated optics that work all the time. Then, you know, try to get your gun firing quicker and more accurately, because the scout tanks that I set up with passive scouting now, I find myself, you know, with binos and camera, I never sit still long enough to use them really. However, if you do play a lot of team games, strongholds, team battles, companies, clan wars, it could be that you go for a passive tank setup, especially in the tier 6 strongholds and below, where there's a less number, like 7 aside, because then there's the space on these big maps for you to get into certain locations. However, in random battles, passive scouting can be a bit of a nightmare, okay? Quite oftenly leading to a premature death by yourself, or a frustration because your team isn't performing. Now, in this instance, the team is performing, and performing very well. And one thing I hope you've been watching as I've been talking is the fact that the Great Wolf hasn't fired a shot. And you cannot fire a shot when you're passive scouting. Even when that T-54E1 was firing blindly at him, he had to stay still, because if he moved he would have been spotted. And he just had to hope that them shots didn't hit him, and they didn't. And now the T-54E1's left him alone. He's still putting the odd blind shot up here, but he's missing. Okay, so what the Great Wolf is doing now is just holding his position. It's getting a bit hairy because the T-30 is moving up and the T-34 is moving forward. And if his team doesn't support him, he will die. Now, one of the things you've got to bear in mind when you're passive scouting, and it's the same on this map and the same on Lakeside as well, is render range. Sometimes you'll be spotting all these targets and be wondering why your team isn't shooting them. It's quite simply because they're not in the render range. They can't even see them on the battlefield. They might be able to see them on the mini map, but they can't see them on the battlefield. Okay, So they just need to push up. So sometimes if you're sat in a bush, you need to encourage your team to move forward to get to the targets, and you do that by asking them positively in chat. You don't slag them off. You don't say, why aren't you shooting my stuff? You just type to them, say, can you guys move up? I've got target spotted. You keep pressing your T button for calling the target, okay? Now, the Great Wolf does a great job here. The enemy's moving forward quite confidently, not realising that they're all spotted by him. I think some of these tanks now think they're not spotted, but they are. And the team starts to do a wonderful job in dispatching these tanks. So tip number 2 for passive scouting is don't shoot anything. Tip number 3 is don't shoot anything. And tip number 4 is just when you feel like shooting something, don't. Okay? The moment you shoot something, you die in most cases. The real art of passive scouting in my book is knowing when your job of passive scouting is over and when your job of going into like a wolfy person to charge forward and take out the damaged tank begins. That's a very, very, very... you have to call that accurately. How I do that is I look at the last known positions of tanks on the minimap. I start looking at the enemy team and start getting a feel for where all the tanks are. And as the tanks get blown up, I start to look where gaps might be. And that enables me to identify where I can get through and when. It's too early in the game for that right now for the Great Wolf. But at this point in the game, that's when I'd start be thinking, right, should I do this? Should I do that? It'd be worth noting then that the Great Wolf could have shot that Bulldog then. Great, absolutely fantastic restraint from him. I think this sort of patience and restraint should actually be classed as a skill and an ability because not many people can do it. And that's what passive scouting is all about. After this video, I'm going to do one on active scouting. That's what I prefer to do. I find I get more consistent results with that. But however, when you are on one of these maps where there's a passive scout opportunity, sometimes it can be nice. How I would call that between an active and passive scouting, as I'm moving across from our spawn from A4 down towards this location, if a lot of stuff come to support this side like it is on this map, I would think, yeah, I can do this passively. If I started moving to this location and only 2 tanks come across to the 1-2 line, I would automatically switch to an active scouting role where I would do half-court scouting along the F line, E and F line. Just keep popping up on the move, spotting tanks for artillery and other tanks to shoot. There's absolutely no point coming to the 1 line in this position if you haven't got the tanks behind you. You're just going to end up getting spotted and killed eventually, okay? So the number 5th tip for passive scouting is don't shoot anything. It's really important. And if you shoot something, what happens? Anyone guess it by now? You die, okay? You get lit up and you die. Some people might say, well, yeah, you could pull behind the bush till it's a solid bush and then shoot. Very true in some circumstances, but in this map, you pull behind the bush and you haven't got the cover from them stuff he's looking at now. Okay, so you pull back to get that shot for things in front of you, your side's then exposed, and the things along the, say, the 5 and 6 line in the middle spot you and shoot you. So in this situation, the Great Wolf is doing a fantastic job of just staying still. Now, passive scouting is something that only some people can do, because if you haven't got patience, don't even try it. You need binoculars, you need a camo net, okay, vents maybe for that extra little bit of something, and you need the patience of a saint, and you find your good location and you sit still. There are a number of good maps which most of you will know. If not, just Google them because they're out there. And you can get forward and do a lot of damage. You know, I've got up to 10,000, 11,000 spotting damage before from passive scouting, and then ended up on like 1,500 damage because I cleared up some artillery and some dying enemies at the end. Them games are great, but they are few and far between. So moving on with the Great Wolf now, he's made the judgment call that it's time to move forward. I agree with him here. If you look, his heavies have come down level with him. He's got full support. He knows that everything he spots is going to be in render range of his heavy tanks. And now he's showing some really nice movement. Okay, what he does is he moves forwards towards the enemy to take his shot, then he veers off. What that does is if you're moving straight directly towards your enemy, your circle gets smaller because your turret isn't turning. You take your shot and then you veer off. Okay, lovely little snapshot there. Great little offensive from him with the support of his team. So that goes back to what I was saying about knowing when to call the charge. And I think he called that perfectly. Next, now he's moving across, and by the Great Wolf's own admission, he gets a little bit zealous. He's been sat in a bush all game. Makes a brilliant shot on that T-34 there, by the way. But he's been sat in a bush all game. He's been bursting to kill stuff. This is his time to shine. He's moving forward, and he's killed one thing, he's damaged another thing. Frustrating thing here is sometimes when you're in this situation, there's that many of your teammates left that they end up getting the kill before you can get it. So he's fired all them shots at that artillery now, and they've all missed. It don't look to me like, I've not played the LTTV, but it doesn't look to me like it's great at hitting stuff on the move. Missed out on the kill on that Panther there, but look at this. Brilliant dodge. He knew the Jag Panther would be up on that hill, and he knew he would be aiming towards that spot because the RT had just spotted him. So he wanted to light that Jag Panther up, but he did not hang around to get shot. That is the marks of a good scout player. He just got the spot, pulled straight back down. Don't even wait for him to light up. You just poke and pull back down, and then that's it. So now he's relocating so he can get an angle on the remaining enemy. Now, by the Great Wolf's own admission, he gets a bit zealous and a bit crazy at the end, and it goes a bit wrong for him. He gets a double ammo rack on him, and it pretty much brings him out of the game and stops him from having an absolutely epic... I mean, this is an epic game, but it stops him from having an epic game. But we'll see how that pans out. He's got multiple targets here, and again, a nice use of auto-aim, but again, the accuracy of this tank whilst driving at them high speeds lets him down a bit. Now he moves in, he's got the Bulldog here, and he's got the Jag Panther 2 down in this ditch. And right now, you know, I know he's got to support some other tanks. He's got the ability to really do well. He gets ammo racked. Okay, he repairs it. Now he's still in good shape. He can still take out this Bulldog. Straight away ammo racked again. That's him out of the game now. There's no way he can take these two tanks on. He moves into the water, which slows him down. His engine's gone now, and he finishes. So, well done the Great Wolf, and that concludes the passive scouting video for this week. I didn't have the end plates for that, but I can tell you that he went on to get just under 1300 damage, and I think it was around 6000 damage by spotting. A great round from the Great Wolf, and thank you for letting me use that video. So to recap on passive scouting, know your maps, make sure you call your charge at the end right, and don't shoot. Okay, that's put it simply. If you feel like you haven't got the support, get out of there quick before the enemy come up on you, okay, and do something different. Very effective, especially in team games where the numbers of players on the maps are lower, and think about how you're going to set your tank up, because you could find if you put binoculars and camo now on your scout tanks that they will be pretty much not used for a lot of the maps you're going to get onto now. That being said, you can still scout passively with optics and normal vehicle camo and a good camo crew. Okay, and still get the benefits of that. Thank you very much for tuning in, and please remember to subscribe and like if you felt this benefited you in some way. I'd like you also to let you know about my live stream. It's on Wednesdays now, starts at about 6:30 to 7 GMT in the evening. So there'll be a link on the screen for that, so please follow that, and don't forget to follow me. And if you're looking for a clan, WoT Uni is going from strength to strength now. We started off taking on red players. The red players are now orange and yellow. We're doing lots of strongholds. We're winning about 80% of our tier 6 strongholds now, which is going really well. We've got some really good lads with us, and we've got some really nice training going. So if you're looking for a new home and a good bunch of people to play with, come along and join the party. Our only rules are you must not be a rager or flamer. It's a place where people come to learn and make mistakes. Make mistakes they will, and they will not be criticised for them. Okay, it's a place for learning and development, not for criticising. So if you're looking for a community like that, follow the links in the description for Havoc Clan. All new members go into my Havoc Clan first and come across to WoT Uni by invitation. Okay, thank you for tuning in, and have a lovely weekend.